Alright guys, so I wanted to make another video today. It's about variant covers and why I hate them, ultimately. Why they suck. Um, the problem with variant covers I have is basically it boils down to they're overdoing it to the point to where it's become ridiculous. Here's an article from Screen Rant. This is from December 24th, 2020. Basically talking about it, how it puts pressure on the comic shops because I don't know if how much you guys would know about variant covers or whatever. I imagine you know a lot about them, but they'll do the 1 in 100, where you got to order 100 copies of this comic to get this one variant cover, which is just ridiculous. And like this article says, never forget that Marvel Comics went bankrupt in the 90s, almost disappeared forever, in part because they the decisions they were making were just the wrong decisions. Like the speculator market and all that kind of stuff. You know, says physical comics are exclusively found in specialized bookstores. At first glance, this may not seem like a big deal, but it's actually part and parcel of the enormous pressure put on small comic shops to satisfy customers and not go out of business. Then it goes on and it talks about how, well, I mean, you can go ahead and read the article if you really want, but basically, here's a breakdown of how incentive covers work. Absolute Carnage #1, this was again just from 2020, had a variant cover that will be included in the shipment for every 50 copies of the book order, or a 1 to 50 ratio. And sometimes they go 1 to 10, 1 to 25, 1 to 100. Now, the 1 in 250, I really don't know much about this because that is such a huge number. 1 in 100 blows my mind. You know, because it's just like, holy crap. How many stores, I don't know about you guys, but how many stores out there would order 100 issues of just of one comic? I mean, because I'm in a pretty small town, so maybe you guys that live in the big cities or whatever, maybe that's nothing. I mean, that's fine. But the 1 in 250, man, you'd have to order 500 copies of that issue to get two of those variant covers. That's almost unbelievable. But anyway, basically, and it says this is an area where print numbers are known, meaning scarcity determines or dictates the value of a specific issue. The higher the ratio of the scarcer the cover, the more value it is. Which is the reason why Marvel does it, or DC does. They all do it really, as you can mention or as you can see here. Now this is from November 19th, 2019. So I mean, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And the guy talks about he can't stand the variant covers, and the specific example he gives, it's right. Yeah, here we go. Right here. DC Comics released 80 different covers for Detective Comics number 1000. That is just crazy. I mean, that's number one. That's just way too many variants. Because the whole idea of the variant cover is supposed to give people, hey, I want to get them all, or hey, this looks really cool. I want to get it. How could that be if you release 80 covers? There's absolutely no way in hell that you're going to release 80 great covers. It's absurd. It's just ridiculous. you know. But then he goes on. And he talks some more about one of the problems that he mentions the 1 to 25, the 1 to 100, all that kind of stuff. It's ultra limited, special, all that kind of crap. The problem I have with variant covers basically boils down to this: if you've got cover art, and this just goes for covers, I guess. But I would include variants as well because the whole idea of variants is that you're supposed to have the best of the best making these variant covers. But just when you have the cover art is better looking than the interior art, that's false advertising. Because for one, if you're in the shop and you open the you look at the book, oh that's a cool cover. Open it up, and the interior art's not as good. You're gonna be like, what the hell? What is this? And you might just put the issue back. Or if you were to buy it and then take it home and find it and be like, what? Oh, then you just wasted your money. Especially because comics are getting more and more expensive, which isn't a good thing for them. Anyway, so that's what happens if the cover art is better than the interior art. But then if the cover art is not as good as the interior art, well, the problem with that is the cover is the first thing people see. They look at it. Sometimes I don't know many people who will buy a comic just for the cover, unless it's like their absolute favorite artist. Then they'll do it, but it's occasional. It's very occasional. It's not often. But a lot of people will look at the cover and then they'll use that to determine if they want to look inside. Well, if the cover art stinks, or if the cover art's just it's just average or whatever, they're gonna, some people will just pass right on by it. I got more important things to spend my money on. You know, because that's the idea of like this great cover art or this variant art is, or variant covers, is to get people to buy the issue who don't ordinarily buy it. But anyway, so it's like if the cover art's better, it's false advertising, and you run the risk of pissing people off because they're like, why can't the interiors look this good? Because some of these interiors look terrible. Some of them, yeah, there's still some really good art out there. But anyway, but then if the cover art is not as good, well, you run the risk of pushing people away. So I get that comics is in kind of a bad spot where they've got to decide, hey, we've got a lot of guys who can make really cool covers, but they don't want to do the interior work, the work involved, because it's a lot of work. So I mean, I get it, but at the same time, there's better ways to do it. Having all these different variant covers, it's not the way to go. I don't think. I think you run the risk because one of the problems, and I'll wrap it up with this. Comics, they start to become like habitual. They become a habit. And that was one of the problems with the whole pandemic, where some people got out of buying comics and they didn't come back. But every month, whether it's it's the first Tuesday, the Wednesday, whatever it happens to be, you go down to the comic shop after work or whatever, and you're going to pick up your comics. It becomes a habit. Every month you're doing that, or sometimes, or I mean, probably every week, I would guess. But you go there and you get your comics, and then you take them home and you read them and all that stuff. But if you start pushing people away with this kind of stuff, like the variant covers, where they're like, "Oh, this is a really cool variant cover, but how am I going to get it? Because it's going to cost more, or that there's so many variant covers. I want to get them all, but because they're all really cool, but I ain't going to spend that much money because comic prices keep going up and stuff. And to me, variant covers, they suck. I don't like them. I don't. I guess I should say I don't mind them if you only have one or two variants. But I mean, hell, I'll look and see some of these issues. They'll have like 8 variants for like a regular issue, and you're like, what the hell? Why are you doing this? It's not even a special event issue, and you're still trying to have all these variants come out. And then of course you have the variants come out, comic sales are up, then the next month they go back down to what they were before. So you haven't really done much. You've gotten a short-term gain, a little short-term goosing, and that's it. Anyway, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here, though. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about variant covers. Let me know. The usual spiel, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.